Okay, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Town Council meeting for June 12th, 2017. We're going to get started. Item 1 on the agenda, Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is public comments. Mr. Bear?
Yes. James Pitt.
Good evening. Good evening. James Kick, for the record, I live at 3 Richcon Drive here in town, and I'd like to give a few items of thought of what's coming up for your consideration. That's funding to expand the New Milford Public Library and its facilities and its programs. I've been involved in local business in this town since 1978, and to get people to come to town is very important. I would have people call me for what they were thinking about moving to the town. More considerations are being given today about how's your hospital, how's your public services, public protection, the education, and in many cases, how's your library and what kind of programs does it have? You know, the library is very important. Some people disparage it or they'll dismiss it, let me say that instead, because of the internet. Well, it's not true. This library is very busy. Matter of fact, I think it probably has the largest attendance of any business in the community. You know, talking with Gary Goldring, he said he gets about 90,000 visits into his movie theater. Public library gets over 140,000. So people like Andrew Carnegie realized how much had to be done and funded libraries all over the United States, many of them still operating today. So at this point, my conclusion, I said you should take a serious, hard look at keeping this wonderful facility and the people that you can see are in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mickey Harkin.
Hi, Mickey Harkin, 11 Meadow Ridge Lane. Imagine a house. This house has water damage on the ceiling, and the ceiling tiles are mismatched and discolored. The rugs are well worn. You can't get to the second floor of the house, so you can only use part of it. The rooms are small and cramped. Your friend who uses a wheelchair can't even access a part of it, which limits her to only 3 rooms in the house. The heating and air conditioning is always an issue, so people are usually too hot or too cold. Your teen's bedroom is so small, it's really just a hallway, and they have no privacy, so nobody wants to come there and hang out. There are no rooms that are not being used. So when you have people over for a meeting or helping kids with their homework, you have to do it in the center of the house, where it can be loud and distracting. The foundation of the house is crumbling, the walls are tilted, and you worry someday that the joists you put in the basement won't be enough, and the house may just need to be condemned. Does this sound like someplace you'd want to live or someplace you'd want to work? If you go to the New Milford Library, you are walking into this house. You are unable to use the stairs, you are not been able to attend the programs or meetings on the second floor for months. The library building is stagnant, out of date, crowded, and just no longer functional. The staff over the years have been magicians in finding and creating new spaces, but even they are running out of tricks. This is a building that has been looking at renovation for as long as I can remember, and we've lived here 13 years. No other building, park, or field that I know of has had to wait as long as the library. It's their turn. It's time to show New Milford that education is valued, that community spirit is valued, that family is valued, and fix the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Mickey. Edward Marisi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here to represent the most famous deteriorated road in New Milford. And I'm sure everybody knows the name Squire Hill, because I've been complaining about this road for the last 5 years. I go down to the DOT every year, and they tell me June or July the road will be worked on. And then after July, I go back to check because it hasn't been worked on. Well, next year, June or July. It's 5 years now. The road is impassable. It's dangerous as could be. There are potholes that are absolutely huge. You fall into these and you can lose control of your car. Something needs to be done about it. Now, I went to the DOG here in town and spoke to them this morning again. And they said, well, you have to go, if you have a complaint, go to town hall. And I said, well, when's the next meeting? He says, tonight. So obviously I didn't have much time to get things organized, but I assure you I will. And we brought a few people on tonight with the same complaint. If we have to go on again, we'll bring the whole doggone street down here. I've lived here for 45 years. I've never seen a road for 45 years like Squire Hill being ignored as much as it has. I drive through this town all the time. I see the roads in this town. I've never seen one worse than Squire Hill. And yet those roads are being fixed. Well, our tax money on Squire Hill is just as good as everybody else's. And I expect it to be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Phil Gallo.
Good evening. I also live on Squire Hill Road. I actually live near the Nostrand Trail system. And, you know, I lived there for 29 years. And I watched the trucks come by to patch and repatch. And a day later, the same potholes are there. I've had to replace front ends on my cars. I've had to replace the front end on my motorhome. These are expensive things. And when you're paying $9,000 a year in taxes for vehicles and your property tax, you expect a little more. The other day I went down to recycling and I had to give him my license to renew my tag for recycling. And the guy looks at it and he says, geez, you live on Squire Hill Road? He says, I plow that road. That's a nightmare. I mean, something has to be done. I plead with you people. We do pay taxes. We deserve a little better than what it is. If you haven't driven on Squire Hill, do yourself a favor and convince yourself. Take a ride up there and see what it's like. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. John Cake, please.
Good evening.
Evening, John.
It's nice to see you're all here tonight. I'm here as a voice for the children of New Milford, for our community. I'm a former educator, as many of you know. I started in this town in 1969 up until my retirement 3 years ago. And I've always encouraged parents to bring their children to the library because it's very important that children learn to love books at an early age. As a member of the Early Childhood Council in this town, which reaches out to parents of all the preschoolers in New Milford, whether they're involved in a preschool in this town or just parents of a preschooler, to encourage the development of language. The development of language early on is vital in the development of successful readers. We have a successful reader in the room. I'm sitting behind that child back there. He's back there reading a book now. That's what we want for all our children, to learn to love reading. At the Countdown to Kindergarten that the school sponsors, we have a library representative there. We hand out information, literature for parents to secure a library card for their youngsters. Children learn language when they are read to. At an early age, the earlier you read to your child, some moms read to them when they're in the womb. Their language, they hear language that they don't ordinarily hear in preschool or when a parent's normally having a conversation. The enormous elephant. How often do you use the word enormous to a little 3-year-old? Having said all this, these children and these parents, we're encouraging them to come to the library, and they get to the children's department in that library. Have you been there lately? It's like you're cramped. It's not pleasing, it's not welcoming. The library needs revamping. It needs to be a place where children come and say, I like this place, I want to go back. Would you get another book? Can we go to the library again, Mom? I'm counting on you as members of the council to please support this endeavor. It is vital to our community. It's not antiquated. It's important, and we need to move forward and have a beautiful place. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Joe Shamuro.
Good evening.
Evening.
Joe Shamaro. I live at 2 Clover Lane in New Milford. I'm also here to support the library for many reasons, as you've heard, but from a first-hand perspective, being a local realtor for 20 years here in the community, I've represented buyers that have almost bought in the town, obviously school systems, downtown, amenities, including the library, but have heard many times about the library not being up to par in relation to some of the competing towns, and I do think it has had a negative effect and even lost potential sales for new homeowners in the town. So I'm here just to voice my opinion in support of the library. I think it's a huge asset and something that we have an opportunity to make better and make it competitive, and it'll not only help the kids, but it'll help everybody, I think, in this room. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Helen Applebaum.
Hello, I'm here to support the library. I moved up to New Milford in 1991, and we were here for weekends. And about 10 years ago, we came up, and we've stayed full-time since then. The library is one of the few places that I know where people can go to get Wi-Fi. And many people do. They also go there because they want to learn how to use a computer. When we first came up, nobody wanted a cell tower. Nobody wanted to be able to communicate by cell phone or to be computer smart. And people have now learned that they have to in order to communicate with their grandchildren and to find out about what's going on in the world around them. So it has become a vital place. Instead of when people were no longer reading books necessarily in print and now reading them on iPads and other devices, we thought that the library would be a thing of the past. But it's not. It's become stronger, and there are more, there are more people in the library every day from when I first came. It's expanded, so not only are the computers available for everyone to use, and that there is a person who is available to teach people on how to use the computer, small business ideas to encourage people to become business people, and films, foreign films, so you can get to learn what other countries' cultures are like. In fact, this Saturday, there's going to be a film at the library that is screened for the first time since it appeared at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. It's called From the Ashes, and it's about coal mining and the coal miners in various portions of this country. So the library brings to the town opportunity for culture that we may not have in other areas. I really support the library, and I hope that you will too. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Rob Burkhart.
Rob Burkhart, 11 Whittlesey Avenue. I am president of the New Milford Trust for Historic Preservation. We signed a contract to buy the house at 11 Whittlesey Avenue in 1978, and we moved in January, a little bit early, in January 1979, I think it was. At that point in time, we signed a contract, and in the New Milford Times was the picture of Dr. Day's house. First New Milford Hospital. And in that picture, was a wrecking ball going through the building to put up the addition that's there now. So for the last 38 years, I've been sitting on my porch listening to an air conditioner and looking at the back of a Best Buy. So I would think I'll be the last person coming here to say this is a good idea. Went to a meeting a few months ago with the library committee and the architect, and I looked at that. The first one that came out was a glass palace that was not too good. But the new one takes 3 different buildings, blends them together, paint color will come together, but it fits downtown, it fits Main Street, and most of all for me, sitting on my side porch, the back of the building incorporates what the rest of the neighborhood looks like. Not perfect, not great, they just did a restoration to approve it. We all get a good view. So not only do my wife thinks this is a good idea, but I talked to the board of directors of the trust and we voted to go along with this addition, and hopefully the town council does too. It's long needed. I was always for put a satellite library out there someplace, and the committee convinced me that's not what people in town want. Bring people downtown. Gary Goldring can do it with the United Bank building. We don't need every part of town moving out of town. We need to stay right here and keep New Milford, I hate to say, great again. I'm a Democrat. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Peter Eng, Jane McCabe, and Sally Lacey, please.
It's my trio.
Yes, nice to meet you.
My name is Peter Eng. I live at 3 Lakeview Road. How are you this evening?
I'm Jane McCabe. I live at 162 Candlewood Lake Road North, and I'm the treasurer of Millstone Ridge Tax District.
And I'm Sally Lacey. I'm on the board of directors at Millstone Ridge. I live at 11 Laurel Drive.
Okay, we're not going to talk about libraries. We're going to talk about a rock. Okay, even though we are here to support the library, but we're going to talk about a donation that's on your proposal at item number 10 regarding a millstone. We live in Millstone Ridge Tax District. That item was offered to us, but we only meet monthly, so it was also offered to Parks and Rec Commission. So we're asking you kindly to help us figure out how to obtain this millstone. Everyone's looking like we're talking about a rock. I'm sure you're not going to interject. I have not had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Calhoun. I only found out about this agenda item last night, actually. We've been great neighbors with Park and Rec, which I'm sure you guys know. And our boundaries were this particular millstone. So if you drive by, you'll see a millstone at the entrance to Lynn Deming. And we would like to somehow work it out that we can have it. I don't want to sound demanding. I'm just trying to be nice. I don't know what any other approach for this. We're talking about a rock, but and it, like I said, it was offered to us, but we only meet monthly, and we didn't have an opportunity to respond back. And I think it was offered to Lynn Deming as well. At this point in time, I will open up to Ms. McCabe, Mrs. McCabe.
This millstone,
who's more passionate than I am, trust me.
This millstone has been in our community ever since its inception, 55 years ago. And the neighborhood, our community, is upset that it has left the neighborhood. We would like to work with Park and Recs to return it back to Millstone Ridge Tax District.
The only comment I'll have is that I did speak to Mr. Stokes, and he was a little confused between the town park and Millstone Ridge, and he felt really bad that he had misunderstood the meaning of the millstone to our community. However, he was pretty clear that he was also feeling bad about reneging on any commitment he had to the town. So he was very in favor of us working with you to try to come to a resolution, and I hope you'll be able to do that for us. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jeff Winter, please.
Good evening, Jeff Winter, 22 Maury Road. By the way, anything that Joan Kick says, I'll agree with that because she's educated at least a few of my children, and they are now in college, and it is thanks to her that they actually made it, right, Joan? All right. Now, the value of libraries is that you can learn a lot of things there. And a recent letter that was sent out by one of the members of the town council read like so, for those of you who feel like you haven't been heard for a long time. I quote, "I have heard time and again, my opinion doesn't matter, or the town doesn't care what I have to say. I am writing you today to tell you that that is not true. In order to ensure that your voice may be heard, I ask that you fill out an attached postcard. By doing this, I will be able to better understand your needs and desires as I carry out my duties on the town council." Well, folks, there's a rule called the Freedom of Information Act. And the Freedom of Information Act allows any member of the public to request documents from elected officials or people working for towns and municipalities to see relevant documents regarding matters that they feel are important. In this letter that also included postage, postcards, probably cost of mailing lists, stationeries, etc., Mr. Pete Bass does not attribute who paid for this. Now, yet he writes in this as though it is an official document. In fact, he even puts the town symbol of New Milford, the flag developed by Mr. Orensky, on the postcard and even on a custom-made stamp. I sent Mr. Bass a Freedom of Information Act request. He has yet to respond. Now, as John Tower and other attorneys here know, and actually all of you on the town council probably know, that the Freedom of Information Act requires a response within 4 days. You don't have to give over the documents in 4 days, but it is required that you acknowledge receipt of the document. That has not been done. And that, of course, is long past. The town clerk of New Milford responded immediately and courteously and acknowledged that she had no knowledge of this. She even forwarded it to the town finance director just in case this was an official mailing and it was paid for by the town. And they responded properly. And it was even forwarded to the mayor's office. And the mayor acknowledged properly and timely that they, in the fashion that they should. If we're waiting weeks past the deadline for Mr. Bass to respond, what are we to expect from our public servants? There is an absolute duty, and you have broken that duty. In fact, it's actually state law, if I'm not mistaken. Would that be correct, John? Okay. So I guess the question is, I don't need a response tonight because I need documentation. But I think it's fair for the people of New Milford to know, and since you do say that you are here to represent them and that you will hear them, that if you're not going to answer a legal requirement, should they at all trust that you will answer them in any way, shape, or form? Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Greg Mullen, please.
Hi, Greg Mullen, 39 Meadowwood Drive, New Milford. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I was pleased and impressed to see the wonderful turnout by the library supporters. I'd like to remind Mr. Winter, if he does not know, that if he doesn't get a response, you can file a complaint with the state, and they will take the matter up. Okay. I've asked probably at least a half a dozen FOI requests from the town, from the mayor, with no response whatsoever. I filed complaints, followed the channels, and got the information I was looking for. I understand, I'm hearing you for the last few months, you must be running for town council because you've been going after Pete Bass every time you get up here. It's very obvious. so I'm assuming you're running. My wife, my kids, 8 and 11 years old, have been going to the library for probably the whole time that they've been alive. I see them going, right through college and then some, 2 or 3 times a week. It's an incredible asset. I think if we use our funds in a smart manner, whether it's waste management money or some small bonds, I think we can get it done. If there was ever a project or an investment in the town that deserved waste management funds, I think this is it. I would prefer to see this type of investment than tax relief. But it also reminded me of an issue that I've been following for 2 years now, and that's our sewer plant. And how I've learned how important and integral it is to our community. For without the sewer plant, we wouldn't have the library. So I'm going to ask everybody in the audience and everybody at the town council and the mayor to give as much thought and compassion and developing partnerships with basically, and the people that work for there, as an entity that's extraordinarily important to our community. There's not enough users to pay for it. It was state mandated. Everybody's aware of this. It apparently is just a political football. I think we should be honest with the taxpayers and the people of this town that it is up to us to support it in the same way that we support our schools and support our library and support every other asset to this town. So I ask that you give that some consideration, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jay. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to ask that we move the library up so all these people don't have to sit here all evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me make sure that there's nothing. I don't want to bump anybody else that's necessarily awake. Sure. So we got a motion to move the agenda. Mr. Bear, seconded. Any discussion on? Yeah, item 12 to item 3. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's make sure that the Lothrop Associates are here and prepared. Oh, there you go. You guys are all here. So let's invite some of the members of the committee up here to speak, and then we'll have the presentation from our consultants. Thank you.
I'm Joyce Hermanat, and I am co-chair with Joanne Chapin of the Library Modernization Committee, and I serve on the Library Board of Trustees. We're here tonight to present the results of the schematic design phase of our modernization project. The committee and our architects have worked together for the past months reviewing and revising the interior and exterior renderings, and we hope you'll agree that we have come up with a building that is not only beautiful but fits the needs of the ambiance of the green as well as its neighbors on Whittlesey Avenue. But most importantly, it meets the growing needs of our patrons. So, without further ado, our architects will show you their designs and they'll answer any questions you might have. And then afterwards, I'd like to briefly address the council.
Sure, please.
It's a little hard to show to everybody.
I've seen it. It's okay.
Turn it around. This is the vision that the library board, working with us, has decided is most appropriate for the library. And we're quite pleased with it. I think, as you can see, it blends between the original house, the original library, and the piece in between. The library is
terms of the size of the building, the existing library, according to the state public library records, the existing library is, in terms of square feet per capita, is number 127 on the list of 156 libraries in the state. So it's quite small by comparison. In terms of service population, people who use the library, it's 33rd largest library in the state. So you can see there's quite a deficit in space that's being restricting usage of the library and services at the library. The plans for the library. Envision reusing all of the main floor of the existing library with a small expansion out toward the front right there to create a new entrance and allow us to put a new elevator inside the library and inside the front door that will get you to every floor in the entire library. So now it will be an accessible building to everybody in the community, which it currently is not. There are spaces that you can't get to, and the only way to get into the library, if you're a disabled person with disabilities, is through the back parking lot and through the back door, which is in total non-compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. So we've solved all that problem by putting this one new entrance. To make that entrance easier for people, it's accessible by coming up. As it is now, there's a sidewalk coming up to the front of the library, up to a high upper floor level of the main floor right there. All we're doing is simply moving the door over to the lower floor. And by bringing the sidewalk up like that, the building is totally accessible to everybody. As soon as you get in the door, that elevator is right there. When you come in the front door, circulation desk, you're greeted by the staff, library staff, and right next to you is the elevator that gets you through the whole building. We're reconfiguring the original house and the 1969 addition to the children's area right off that main entrance, a new young adult area right next to that, up the elevator one step, up a flight of stairs, a half flight of stairs, we come to the existing main floor of the 1890s building. And so all of that is accessible. At the back, there's staff offices to handle deliveries and so forth. But the main historic part of the building will be changed from the children's area to an adult reading area. So I think that will be a wonderful place for adults with that original architectural style that we hope to bring back to this whole project. So that's the main floor to it. Half a flight up from that main level we were just talking about is a mezzanine, and that mezzanine will be all the staff areas. So they're conveniently located to serve the whole library and to serve the public. The top floor contains the current large meeting room and meeting rooms in the front of that, the original 1890s building. But we are then adding a new floor on top of the existing roof of the 1979 building. And that becomes the new adult fiction area, fiction collection, non-fiction collection over here, with multiple meeting rooms, different size meeting rooms, for many different people, all different sizes of groups of the population that would like to use the library. So you have all the traditional services of books and the library assistants out in the general area, and there are much more in the way of public meeting rooms and private meeting rooms. So it will serve a greater demand for libraries that we're seeing now, much more it becoming sort of a community gathering place and a place for patrons to come together and meet with each other. So that's the general plan for it. I want to point out that the budget for this at this time, renovation cost and addition cost is expected to be about $7.5 million. And that cost has been very much kept in check by the fact that the library is being very judicious in the new space they're creating in the library. This is not a wish list, let's get everything we can. They've been very prudent in keeping it to the size that is needed. Right now, New Milford Library is ranks, I think, 33rd out of 165 libraries in the state based on population. When we build this addition, 44 state libraries will already now have more square footage than this library will be building. So while we could be up much higher, 33%, 44% right now already have more. So we're not even pushing the limits of what this library should be in terms of the state of Connecticut standards. And I think that says a lot to the library board and the library staff that's been, as I said, very frugal and prudent in the design of this.
Jim, can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
When we first started talking about this about a year ago, there was this assumption that, the library couldn't go up, that it had to go out, and we kind of challenged that assumption. And I know there's still a lot of people that still believe that because the way the 1970s edition was built, that you can't go up. How are you going to the second floor on this? You're just reinforcing, the beams?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're taking advantage of the roof structure that's there because it already has enough load for snow, but we're then augmenting it to be enough structurally sound enough to serve the population that's going to be up there. So again, that's a way of reducing the cost of this library. We're not throwing away the roof that's already there. We're taking advantage of the roof that's there.
Right, so you're not demolishing what's there, you're basically putting a facade on it and building on top of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're
Nice.
trying to be as frugal and as we can.
Yeah. Right. Yes, Ms. Francis.
Jim, in the pricing that you gave for the complete project, that does include some, I'll use the word some, repairs and retrofitting and structural help on what exists both in the Goodman House and in the original library. Is that true?
Yes, it does. We're taking advantage of every piece of square footage within that library that we can that actually works for us. So let me point out that currently in the basement of this building, it's used for storage. It's not really accessible to people. We're going to make that lower floor fully accessible by that elevator we showed you when you first come in, and that space will be fully utilized, fully taken advantage of. The only place that we are not utilizing space that we currently have is on the second floor of this original house. We looked at putting staff there, but the problem is the entrance is here and the whole library is over there. So it was just moving staff too far away from the public. So for the same price, we built a mezzanine right here so that the public would be better served and the staff and better served the public. That's the only piece we're not taking advantage of.
Yes, Ms. Francis.
Lots of people have asked me, one of the things we have a lack of in our town is spaces for groups to meet. Small groups, big groups, Boy Scouts, library groups. And as I recall, that there is a way to segregate some of the meeting area up there so that the library itself could be closed, and that is a separate access and egress so that people could have a meeting and not be concerned that the library was also in operation. Is that true?
That's correct. The second floor of this building right now has 2 large meeting spaces in it. So there are 2 large meeting spaces in it. We have to have, for large groups of people over there, we have to have 2 ways out of that, and we have to have it accessible. So you can't hold a program at night that somebody with a disability can't get to. So we are coming up in the main entrance, coming up an elevator right there, and coming into one of those 2 rooms. The rest of the library can be closed off for after-hours usage. So the bathrooms and the restrooms and the elevator will be accessible in those meeting rooms, but nothing else will be.
Mr. Bass.
Questions. One, are you doing any upgrades to the mechanicals?
Yes.
In which you're doing a complete retrofit?
Yes.
What is the cost for just that component? And what is it?
We are waiting for final drawings and final statements from the
Sure,
engineers, so I don't
okay.
have those exactly.
Could you kind of give me an
Not sure it was broken out separately.
And the reason why I ask is because that would be a capital requirement that would have to be necessary anyway, because I'm sure we're at the end of the use of life. I know I've been down there, the boiler was
I know Walter and I were down there.
It was
The dungeon, you mean the dungeon?
Yeah.
We're the friends.
The dungeon.
So I mean, that's a good benefit that we can do the mechanicals within the project. I'm sure you're going up to code and spec on both your project that's going up 2 stories. How about in some of the older parts of the building? Are you doing a retrofitting?
Everything is intended to be restored or refinished.
So we're going to be saving on our energy costs too,
Yes.
as we retrofit.
There'll be dramatic savings in energy costs.
Great. Thank you.
Question?
Mr. Chamberlain.
Has it been looked into as to whether there will be any hazardous material remediation involved in this process?
It's being tested as we speak. And so we do know there is asbestos in there, and we have that accounted for in the costs that we've laid out to you at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Bass?
Question either for yourself or the ladies that are on the committee. When you came up with your proposal, when you sought public input, what did you do to solicit the public input?
There were surveys taken, there were collected, there were lots of opportunities for the public to submit private comments. But then we had I think 3 days of focus groups.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make a comment. You mentioned the cost. This is the second committee that I've been on with our Chairman Joyce over there. Joyce has been through 3. And although it is a good chunk of money, there's a lot of things that need to be done that haven't been done. And as was pointed out, this building, this library is a town-owned building, and it really has not had anything done to it. I'm not saying it needed something every single day, but a lot of stuff is added up. But the committee that we did, I don't know, in the 2000, whenever it was, the cost then was $21 million. What Lothrop and Associates have done is what everyone, as the mayor pointed out, everyone said, oh, it couldn't be done. I mean, by everyone, the architects, they never really gave that as a credible solution. So not only have they used that, not having to widen or do anything on the green, keeping our neighbors happy, but they've used interior, and of course some things are still flexible, but every square inch of space is being used. And the fact that they're having meeting rooms that can be used outside of library time, as anybody in this room or here on this council that's ever wanted to have a meeting in town, you know that we're loath to find a place to do it. So I can't say enough about what they've done. They're very highly regarded in the library architecture world, and I'm very glad that we chose them to do this.
Right. Yeah.
Are there any major drainage issues with using the basement that you've
We
uncovered?
haven't quite gotten that far yet, but I don't believe there would be. The boiler room is already lower than anything we're working with. I think there has been some water infiltration in the lower floor of this building, which we'll take care of as part of this project, but it's nothing that is insurmountable. The street's lower than this. There are places I'm sure that we can handle that drainage without a problem.
Right. Yes, Mr. Esposito, and then Mr. Bear.
Which energy code are you going to be designing this to, 2.9 or 2.12?
I have very good technical people backing me up. I can be the person that draws the pictures. So
That's a nice picture.
Sorry.
Mr. Bear.
We sometimes, well, we use the word jewel a lot, and sometimes we beat it to death. You know, we spent, what, $4 million on turf fields. We spent $1 million on Lynn Deming, and they're jewels. There's no question about it. I have said from the get-go, going way back when I guess first met Joyce on the original committee, that one of the jewels of this community is the library. But boy, as Councilman Bass has pointed out, we have been to the dungeon, and it is a dungeon down there. You know what's nice about this? I don't have to walk up an incline like that with this foot.
Right.
I like this. It's got my vote. Yes, it does. It's a jewel.
Thank you, Mr. Bear, and thank you, Lothrop. And thank you, the committee, and Joyce, and the trustees as well. You know, when we started talking about this about a year ago. We said, get to the picture, because the picture is going to be worth 1,000 words, and it really is. You've done a beautiful job. I think it kind of speaks for the potential. It was hard for people to see, and I'm glad it went through a couple of iterations to get to this point, because you're right. We went from kind of glass to a more traditional look that kind of marries the best of both worlds, and we'll continue to work on it. You know, you've done a great job. Thank you.
I just also want to point out that for the children's section, we've more than doubled the space and taking up the Goodman house and making it light and airy, and it was like just a beautiful job that he's shown us.
I also want to point out in the Goodman House, where the library staff now has their offices, there's only one way to get in and out. And that's very dangerous. That will not happen.
Right, it's a spiral staircase that you have to reach way down like this to get the railing.
So, any other questions before I give my final remarks?
Anybody else? Yeah, no, that's great.
So I just want to say that well over a decade ago, we came before the council twice to ask for support for much needed expansion and renovation. And many of you have toured the building, and you can see how critical it's become to update and expand it. You have supported some wonderful projects for our town. You have already paid approximately $163,000 for the first phase of this design, and now we're here to ask you for your continued support and we are hopeful you'll fund the next step, the design development phase, and that is an amount of $216,934. And the committee would like to thank Mayor Groenbach and many council members for their encouragement as we move forward through this project. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we'll close the presentation part of it. Thank you very much. And any chance we have a copy of this? Can we leave this in town hall or in the library?
What's the amount of the request?
The request for the next phase, the design development phase, is $217,934.
Yeah, that's item B.
Right, but it's not.
Write that down.
217?
217.
216,934. It's right here.
We rounded up to 217. I think it's about $70.
Yeah, 217.
It's easier to account for.
My pizza.
Hold on for a second, Mr. Attorney Tower.
Mayor, before you close the presentation portion, you may want the architect to articulate for the public what the town may be getting in the next phase, if it was approved by the council, meaning what exactly is a design development phase?
Sure, that's a good point. Right. So we've got this point from the 100 and some odd thousand. What's the next phase, guys?
Well, architectural services are broken up into bite-sized pieces that have some logic to it. To date, we've done schematic design. That's figuring out what the concept should be, what pieces should be in it, generally where they should be located, generally what they look like. We don't spend too much time worrying about all the details because we don't want to spend your money worrying about those details if the plan isn't accepted. So that's what this is. All the components are there. The library's agreed upon all of the spaces that are in there and the design concept of all of this. It doesn't mean there won't be second thoughts or some better ways we can change little things in it, but this is pretty much all the pieces that we're going to the library and pretty much what it can look like. Design development is developing this to the point where we're certain where everything is going, we're certain what all the mechanical, electrical equipment is going to be. We have the scope of the project completely agreed upon and completely covered in that phase. The last phase is the construction documents where all of that is put down on paper for contractors to bid and build it. But at the end of this next phase, all of that design will have been basically finalized, and all of the mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems will have been agreed upon where they're going to be. So,
And the kinds of materials that will be
all
used.
the materials, right. All the real decisions of this will be made in that next phase. The last phase, construction documents, is really just putting it together.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. All right, so I'll entertain a motion for 12B.
I would like to authorize.
Okay, I guess I don't get to
You get to
say
second it.
I spent 2 years doing this, so I
You
don't
get
like
to second it.
Katie, go for it, come on,
Thank
quick,
you.
quick.
I'd like to move that
Move
we
it.
authorize the expenditure of the $217,000 from the Waste Management Fund to be used and expended for Phase 2 of the modernization project for Milford Public Library. Services to be provided by Lothrop Associates
Second.
LLC. Thank you.
Let's wait. Everybody's on the quick on the draw. Everyone wants to be the first and the second. All right, Mr. Esposito, second. Mr. Bassett.
Walter and Katie, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys are passionate. All you guys, thank you.
Thank you very
And I'll be
much.
voting in favor.
Appreciate it.
Okay, we're open for discussion. Yeah, Mr. Szymanski.
A couple things. One, I'm extremely encouraged by the fact that you guys went to the community. I think that's overlooked many times. The fact that you reached out to them in multiple ways through the media, whether it was print, online, email, and by mail, and including them in the process, I think helps make the project the best that it can be. And it helps get buy-in because everyone has the opportunity to comment before the decisions are made. So if anyone becomes opposed to the project down the road, you gave them that opportunity to present that opposition or to present their comments, critiques, etc. To me, that's extremely important. The other thing is the renovation of the downtown meeting space. I think that's extremely important. One of the most important things that I see in this town is our downtown. So anything that we can do to encourage people to use the downtown, I'm totally in favor of. I assisted with the engineering on the Sherman Library project, and since that project's been expanded, it's amazing how much use it gets compared to what it was, because it was underutilized, undersized. Well, this one isn't underutilized, that one was. And to see, now that they have the space to have the programs that they really want to have, they have the ability to serve the public in the proper way, that library flourished in a way it would not have been able to without that expansion. And I feel strongly that New Milford's library is going to do the same.
Thank you.
Mr. Lundgren.
I want to say how happy I am that this is hopefully going to go forward tonight. It's been a long time. I've been on the council for 14 years, and this project has come before us I don't know how many times. I've always been a big supporter of the library, and I'm so happy that finally we're going to get this off the ground and get moving and get going.
Thank you, Mary Jane.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Chamberlain.
In so many of the things that we do, we're spending some significant amounts of money, but for things which really don't reach out and touch the community on an emotional level. Here, clearly, there is a strong sentiment in the community for the improvement of this facility, something that will reach all members of the community, from the youngest to the oldest, and certainly it's a project that's been a long time in coming.
Thank you very much.
And I'll just say a couple of words. I mean, we have two members that were unable to be here tonight, Mr. Wargo and Ms. Richardson. But if they were here, I know that Mr. Wargo has been very interested in the library for a long time. And I'm sure that he'd be supportive, and I know Ms. Richardson would have as well. So with that being said, unless there's any other discussion, Mr. Baer, we've had your enthusiastic support already. Let's call the vote. All in favor of the motion for Phase 2 and 217, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? The motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Baer.
May it be recorded as being unanimous.
Yeah, I certainly hope it will. All right, thank you so much, everybody, for coming. You're welcome to stay. We've got some other items on the agenda, but I know that this was the main event for a lot of you, so don't be shy. If you want to leave, we won't take it personally, but thank you so much. We'll give you a chance to do so. No, you've got to stick around. We're only at number 3. It's all right. It should go fairly quickly.
Residents remind me about the previous.
Joyce, we're doing coffee and donuts.
Oh, okay, so the library, we'll work with that. We'll kind of go back and forth, that wouldn't be a bad thing. We'll talk today. Yes, right. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go back to number 3, the approval of prior minutes. I entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the regular town council meeting minutes of 5/22/2017.
Second.
Discussion? Mr. Baer?
Just a typo. If you go to under public comment, Walter Bear, the second line,
Up.
sunk off the coast.
What?
Of the...
Oh, right, not on the coast.
That
Right.
would have been interesting.
Fair enough.
Off the coast.
It's important.
Well, my question problem.
Yes, we don't want anybody thinking you to use bad grammar.
True.
All right, with that friendly amendment, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Note abstention, Chamberlain.
Mr. Chamberlain, Mr. Szymanski. My mayor's comments. We do have some of the items. I do want to get to a couple of things. I've got a certificate of recognition tonight, and I hope that he's here. Raj Kandari? Raj, come on up. Raj and the Swim Team 6 Fight Against Cancer this past weekend. They organized events in conjunction with Swim Across America. It's actually something that I did when I was probably about Raj's age, except we didn't get to swim in a pool. We had to swim across Long Island Sound. But it's a great event to raise money for cancer. And I really appreciate, Raj put a lot of effort into organizing this. And as much as I would have liked to have been there, I did get kind of caught up in another thing. Certificate of recognition is kind of the next best thing. So the town of New Milford would like to recognize Raj Kandari and the members of Swim Team 6 Fight Against Cancer Swim Across America event, which was held on June 3rd, 2017 at the Canterbury Swimming Pool. Their commitment to swim for 2 hours raised over $3,700 to help find a cure for cancer. 2017 marks the 30th year of Swim Across America. During that time, they've grown from a single event in Nantucket, Massachusetts, to the 15 open water benefit swims across the country and 100 annual pool swims. Since 1987, SAA has raised over $70 million through 15 experiential open water swimming fundraising events and over 100 pool swim fundraisers. Thank you for your commitment and good luck with next year's event. Raj, thank you so much. We won't get a picture. Maybe, oh wait, Rob will take a picture. We'll get it right in front of the flag here too.
You got a better angle.
There we go. Good enough? No?
No, I'm getting his head.
That's okay. Great job. Thanks so much. How many laps did you swim?
Oh, probably like
20?
Yeah.
All right, not bad, It's everything for a good cause, right? Well, great job. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, take care. Thank you. A couple of other items. I did want to note, our community did suffer some losses in the past couple of weeks. Raymond Plew Jr. had passed away, and a lot of people knew Ray from his singing and from his amazing rendition of the national anthem at many of our local events. Ray was also a Purple Heart and Medal of Honor recipient, and his service to his community and to his country is appreciated, and it will be missed. We also did. We lost Harry Taylor in the past couple of weeks of H.H. Taylor and Sons, and another individual who not only was a fixture in the community with a great business that served most people at one point or another, probably walked through there, but also as a member of the Waterwich Fire Department, as the chief, and just as a person who put his money where his mouth is and actually contributed. He was not a person to just complain about the state of events. He was an individual committed to being a positive part of that. So we recognize, and again, our community will miss Harry Taylor. And finally, on another note, I'd just like to thank the Garden Club. They're not here tonight, and they didn't know, but if you look around town, you see the amazing work that they've done, gardening and planting flowers around town, and it's not really recognized. We take it for granted, but they're a great group of mostly women who are committed to gardening, and they're so knowledgeable about it, and they're passionate, and they do a lot to just beautify the town. And when people say we have such a lovely town, they're part of the reason why. So thank you to the Garden Club.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to mention just one other thing. In Gaylordsville, a dear friend of mine, David Schaffer.
It was on the front part of that. I forgot. You're right. It was typed. I didn't write it. You're absolutely right. Please, say something. Dave has been in the hospital and has been recovering from an injury that he suffered as a result of the fall. And we're glad to hear that he's out of the woods in terms of being in a critical condition, but he does have a long way to go in terms of rehabilitation. So hopefully we'll see him back in the community soon, up and about and moving again. And you're right, we give our thoughts and prayers, and hopefully when we see him, just help him along and anything we could do to help him. You're absolutely right. Another person who's spent countless hours committed to our community and a thankless job on the Board of Ed a lot of times. So. And a teacher, absolutely.
And the Ethics
AP
Commission.
courses. And the ethics, yes, exactly. So, yes, we hope for a speedy recovery from Mr. Schaffer. Okay, let's move on to item 5, appointments to boards and commissions.
Okay, motion to approve the appointment to the Historic Properties Commission, Theodore W. Hine, unaffiliated alternate, and Andrea P. Rush, Democrat alternate, for the term 6/12/2017 to 11/30/2018.
I'll second that.
Oh, you know what? I think, was this the one that Patrick McGuire is on also? And
He wants to-
yeah, I just got the email, so I'd entertain a friendly amendment to add Patrick
So moved.
McGuire
Second.
for reappointment to this.
Yeah.
Okay? Avoid Pat.
But hold on, but we have two different terms here. Theodore is 2018, and Andrew's 2017, right?
They are different terms, and Pat McGuire's would actually be different as well.
Do you know what
Pat
the,
McGuire would be 12/1/2016 through, so 3 years, so
2019.
through 2019, 11/30/2019.
11/30,
The current
right,
vacancy.
2019. Okay, and if it has to be, if we made a mistake, we could always come back and change it. We've done that before. But, okay, so with those 3 and that friendly amendment, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Motion to approve the appointment to the Traffic Authority, Rosaline H. Gill, Democrat, the term 6/12/2017 to 11/30/2017.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion to approve the appointment to the Planning Commission, Gerald J. Monahan, Democrat. Gerard, sorry. Teresa A. McSpadden, Democrat alternate, for the term 6/12/2017 to 11/7/20. So Gerald's is 6/12/2017. Gerard, Gerald, whatever his name is. 11/7/2017.
We're going to change it one way or another.
Give him a new birth certificate. And Teresa McSpadden's term is 6/12/2017 to 11/30/2019.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, motion to approve the appointment to the New Milford Aquifer Protection Agency of Gerard J. Monahan, Democrat, 6/12/2017 to 11/7/2017, and Teresa A. McSpadden, Democrat alternate, 6/12/2017 to 11/30/2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.
Motion to approve the reappointments to the Farmland and Forest Preservation Committee, Stephen P. Kleppen, unaffiliated, and Curtis C. Elk, unaffiliated.
That's Eck.
Eck, to 11/30/2016 to 11/30/2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And motion to approve the reappointment to the Inland Wetlands Commission, Angela Dimmitt, Democrat alternate, 11/30/2016 to 11/30/2020.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.
Motion to approve the request to close the crossover adjacent to the bandstand on the town green to traffic during the Edwin Kincaid concerts on the green. The concerts are planned for August 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th, 2017. The request is for the road to be closed at 6 p.m. until the concerts are over, usually around 9:30 p.m.
Second.
Okay, it's item 7 in your agenda packet is the letter from the Commission on the Arts. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let's hope for some good weather.
Yeah.
Item 8.
Motion to approve the request of Eversource Energy to allow a temporary easement to access the Eversource power line right-of-way on the property located at 12 Scoville Street, May 35, lots 4 and 5.
Second.
Okay, just very briefly, Eversource is upgrading their lines over at the property. They need an easement to kind of get in there and do what they got to do. John and Randy have looked at this, and it's been approved by the Planning Commission as well. Any further discussion? Mr. Szymanski.
Are they raising the height of the poles or lines?
Mr. Tower, can you answer that?
I do not really answer that. I didn't get into that level of detail.
Just because it said structural upgrades, I'm just curious.
Okay. Couldn't tell you. Okay, any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9, personnel.
Motion to approve the recommendation of the Personnel Code Subcommittee to accept the updated Personnel Code.
We'll have a second.
Second.
Okay, now for discussion, you see Mr. Bolero. Little backgrounds, we appointed a subcommittee a number of months ago to review the personnel code that hadn't been updated, some portions, Mr. Bolero, right, you know, from like the 90s.
87 was when it was originally.
1987,
done.
yeah.
And 98 was when there was an initial revision to the non-union benefits, and then 2003, I think was the last time it was fully updated.
So the code was very much out of date. It wasn't in compliance with a lot of laws and regulations that have come up since then. And frankly, it was hamstringing, you know, the ability to kind of properly administer the town's employees.
Exactly right. It was silent on too many things that are going on in today's employment. So what the object was for this is, with the help of the subcommittee, just getting this to be current, to address things like absentee and accountability, to address the cell phone policies, to really get into workplace violence and things of that nature, but not to be a policy document, but just around the rules and regulations, to identify how many sick days employees can get. But not only what they get, how often they can use them in a responsible manner, and really bringing an accountability back into the town. So when I first started, I got the personnel code when I was hired about a year ago tomorrow, and it became a quick priority to update this. So the subcommittee was Jessica Richardson and Scott Chamberlain, and we went through a number of different towns, different personnel codes. We looked at the state personnel code that they had, and I don't intend for this to be a stagnant document. This is going to be something that will be able to be updated as the times kind of come, but at least gets us, from an employment law perspective, onto the right page.
Mr. Chamberlain, do you have anything to add?
I would just note that in looking at how the surrounding towns handle this topic, there's a wide range of activities. Danbury has got one. I went around to determine, what people were doing. You've got a town like, or a city like Danbury, and they basically use a video presentation, and what they gave me was a script for the new employee orientation. Bethel had a very comprehensive document, and we took a lot of inspiration from them. We looked at Brookfield and a number of other towns, and essentially what we tried to do is to take we tried to emphasize the basics, not to cover every possible thing, to make it as clear and cohesive as possible, and to make it a document basically that, with all due respect to my brethren, that you don't need a lawyer to understand or to administer.
Yeah, Ms. Francis,
Yeah, we didn't really have this until the end of the day on Friday to look at, so I've not compared it, and I know that there's a lot of things that are added, obviously. But I have one question. The levels, the groups, under the salary groups at the very end, they were never a part of this.
A part of the previous personnel code, correct.
Right. How have they changed from past grouping?
So it actually gives New Milford the ability to quantify what positions will be paid, not what people are paid, but what positions are paid. I'm actually really excited about this, Oliver, and we met on this. What this does is it gives the town a clear perspective of what a minimum group classification would be, but also a maximum. So if we have an employee that's with us for 25, 30 years, we're not at risk of having where we're giving non-union members raises and continually year after year after year, to where we're paying somebody that's in, and name one of the positions, $20,000, $30,000 more than what the maximum for what the position is, because we're paying the person in their longevity. So it really protects the town,
I
and
understand.
it also helps the employees.
Does it bring the non-union and the union people closer to parity of wage?
In the short answer, no, because this does not give anybody any raises. If we were to bring all
No, I
of the
mean,
people to
over-
minimums.
Not immediately, I'm just
Not-
saying.
not
Is
immediately.
that a goal? Is that a?
It is a goal. We do have some salary disparities within the town. We've addressed some of them in this, where we've got directors that are at risk of making less than their subordinates. And this would help address that in that aspect as well. But what the goal is here is to identify what the minimums would be, making sure that people are within that minimum, which would address some of the disparities between what the unions are making and what the non-unions are. But this really doesn't address the salaries that are current today.
Okay, and so my last question is, does the grouping, go back to that for a minute, does this put anyone currently employed by the town back from where they are?
No, actually, that was one of the things that was very eye-opening for me. From the maximums, even with employees that have been here for 25 and over 30 years, we do not have a single employee that is over 50% of between the minimum and maximum.
Okay, good, thanks. Very nice job.
Thank you.
Mr. Szymanski.
So how many people currently on this list that Katie referred to make less than the minimum?
I'd have to look. I didn't bring those numbers with me. Off the top of my head, I believe 6 people are still making less than the minimum. But the total number to get people to the minimum would be $28,000. It's not. We're not off by a lot. So this and the salary groupings were actually done through CCM studies and by actually measuring the difference between municipalities in our scope and size versus what the salaries for these positions are.
So besides, I know you want to implement it soon, since we only have like 72 hours,
Sure.
I'd like some time to just review it.
Of
and
course.
then we can put a list of questions together and
Yep.
go to the mayor's office.
Absolutely.
Forward to you.
Absolutely.
Yes, fine. I know it's a long document. It's an introduction. Greg is here to answer any questions. But like I said, we've been working on it for a year, so another 2 weeks. But if you've had a chance, if you have any general questions about it, feel free to ask them now. But we could always bring it back to the next meeting. We don't have to vote on it tonight,
Yeah,
especially if Ms. Richardson isn't here either.
Yeah, I'd like
Let
to just
everybody hear.
read it. Not, I mean,
Yeah,
I think
sure.
it's a stellar job, and we did briefly discuss some of this before, but I just didn't have the free time to look at it.
That's
so-
fine. Tonight's an
Thank you.
introduction on that.
Excellent.
I'd like to
course,
make a
absolutely.
motion to table until the next regularly scheduled meeting.
I'll second that.
Which is,
2 weeks, right?
26?
2 weeks, yeah.
Were there any other questions before we table? Sorry, not to interrupt.
No, but thank you for all the folks that worked on it, Scott, you, Jessica, and everybody else.
We'll email them to the mayor's office so you have time.
Yeah,
to
okay.
review
Not
it
easy.
ahead of the meeting instead of
A lot of work.
That sounds
Yeah.
good. And this has gone to all the department heads. This is being reviewed by the town as well, and it'll give directors more of an opportunity to read through this as well. So please, I welcome all the questions. I've got no ego to this document. I want to get it right, and I want it to just continue to work. So, let me know.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
Did we vote?
Well, we're just tabling it, so I think everybody's in agreement. All right. Item 10, Parks and Rec.
Motion to approve the request to accept a donation of a large millstone that was placed at the entrance of Lindemary Park as part of the park renovation project. The millstone was a donation from Thomas Stokes of Pelham Manor, New York.
There's a second, so we'll have discussion. Okay. I think everybody's a little taken aback by the dispute or
Yeah, well, I don't
the
know that it's,
disparity.
I don't think they really said dispute, but I think that based on what we heard from the Millstone people, maybe we should.
Let's take a pause at least.
Let
Yeah.
them have their discussions or whatever.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
want to
So
do.
what we'll do is I'll reach out to Mr. Stokes and just get him on board, with wherever he feels the millstone would go. I know it's already in front of Lindeming, but we've still got the heavy equipment there. So if it needs to be moved, I'm sure we could do so. And we'll put it off for 2 weeks to get everything kind of clarified, and then if we got to move it, then we'll kind of figure something out. So Szymanski.
Just as someone who does a lot of surveying in the area and the history of the properties, it does have historical significance to that
Sure.
community.
Yeah.
When I saw it went up, I drive down the road almost every day. it was a little odd to me. It looks out of place where it's
Yeah.
positioned on the corner. It's confusing to people who say, where's Millstone Ridge? It's at the first millstone. Well, now it's the second millstone. It takes away from the beautiful sign we just put up. You know.
Mr. Ag, if you want to come up, if you have something to say, sure.
For me to speak.
No, we'll invite you up and make a few comments.
You're making me stand up. That hurts more than sitting down.
All right.
I think I could safely speak on the behalf of the Board of Directors that it would not cost you any expenditure to move it. If we had permission, I would have to okay that with, these are two of my board members currently.
Sure.
But I don't think it would cost the town a dime.
I don't think the
As long
cost
as we
is-
had permission.
Yeah, we'll make sure that, you know, it's coordinated. I just want to make sure, you know, with Mr. Stokes.
I would be concerned about my tax dollars if we started spending.
No,
if we
like I
moved
said,
along.
we've still got M&O on site, you know,
No,
so.
I understand that. No, it's not just the rock, and mind you, there's a lot of passion here. I'm gonna get into a lot of trouble the minute I leave, but I don't think there'll be any expenditures by you guys. as long as
Can
we
I ask a
had-
quick question? This was the stone that was directly across the street.
In
that
somebody's
guy's shop.
backyard.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Yeah.
literally sitting on the side of the road. I looked at it every time I walked.
Well, it
down
was
the road.
in somebody's backyard.
Yeah, it was tucked
Correct.
up. It wasn't,
Correct.
that- it was,
It wasn't-
it was visible though from the street.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, we
Okay.
just feel, I'm not gonna go through it again.
No, we'll figure it out. I'll
No.
coordinate with Mr. Stokes.
That'd be great.
And
You know how to get in touch with me.
we'll coordinate with you guys as
That'd be
well.
awesome. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks for your time.
Okay, we'll address it. Thank you. And then item B.
Motion to approve request to accept a donation of arboriculture services valued at $1,920 as part of the Lynn Deming renovation project. These services are a donation from the Emmons Tree and Landscape of New Milford, Connecticut.
Second.
Any discussion? Very much appreciated. Mr. Bass?
Yes. A big thank you to Emmons Tree and Landscape for their services over there.
Absolutely.
Park looks unbelievable.
Sure does.
Park is coming along beautifully. Yes, you know, so that would be great and it's very much appreciated. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11.
Motion to approve the request by the New Milford Police Department to transfer $20,394.20 from the Educational Incentive Account number 1042010059501 to the Vehicle Capital Account number 1049010657420. These funds will be used towards the purchase of a major incident response vehicle.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Chairman. Chief, why don't you come up and just give a little background?
Good evening.
Evening, Chief.
Thanks for the opportunity. As you're aware, back in September, October, we initiated a fundraising campaign, and today we've had a lot of interest and a lot of anonymous donors or people who wish to remain anonymous. It's just phenomenal. Some of these donations are in excess of $10,000. But we reached a cap of about $26,450 plus or minus a few dollars. We have a pending donation of another $10,000 to match if we meet our goal. And as we did propose earlier, we believe the total cost to be about $62,800 for the entire project. This education incentive funds of $20,394 was numbers proposed in our budget to meet a ratified contract agreement for the existing contract from 2011 to 2014. Well, negotiations carried on to 2000 for the current contract into 2016 or 15, 16. I'm sorry.
16.
And when the contract was ratified, that number is no longer. We don't apply that education incentive anymore. So it turned up to surplus funding based on the late ratification and mid-budget situation. So the funds are available. It's a legitimate transfer. It would give us our almost $47,000 total towards our goal. A remaining of $15,706. Anticipate another donation of $10,000 because we can afford and accommodate the van, and the $10,000 has been. We feel confident it's going to be awarded just to meet the equipment needs in the van. And we've got a little bit of asset forfeiture money that we hope we can complete the rest of the funding and bring this multi-purpose necessary vehicle into service.
Fair enough. Ms. Francis?
Okay, so we're gonna take it out of education incentive. So that means, what are the incentive to get educated?
They voted for a pay wage interest in the last contract. It doesn't make that applicable anymore. They voted it out. Honestly, 99.9% of our higher-reads are coming in with bachelor's and
Yes,
associates
right.
already.
So no one's going to miss out on any updates?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Bass.
Depending on how the first and the second felt about it, I was hoping that we could postpone this vote till after July. And the reason being is we still don't know what the state's doing as far as cutting the budget. And I think we'd be a little quick at the draw, so to speak, until we found out what our true costs are going to be to July. So I would like to see, hopefully, that we could postpone this till our July meeting.
Let me say one thing towards that. So this is in the current budget year. So after, if it's, unless it's carried in force, it'll just drop to the bottom line and go to the surplus, for lack of a better word.
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah, the unassigned. Yeah, sure.
And just a suggestion. One of my interests is not losing the available money if that becomes a reality.
Yeah.
Maybe an understanding that this transfer just moves it to capital to allows us to carry over in force.
Right.
And I'm the first one to pay the bills before luxury. So if it does come to be a necessity, at least it's carried over pursuant to policy and law, and we could readdress it at a later date. If it becomes not available, I certainly don't have an issue with it going into where it has to go versus into this direction.
I agree. I think getting it into the capital so that we can carry it in force is important. And regardless of what the state does at the end of the day, we can't shortchange ourselves for the things that we need and continue to invest in our community. We've raised a lot of money for this. It's something that we need. I know, Chief, you've been looking at it for a long time. We've got you've built up a lot of great staff and intelligence. There's a lot of professional capital, but sometimes you just need the equipment as well. And right now we don't have that. So our guys that have this training are hampered by the absence of this kind of equipment. So I think transferring it into capital, carrying it forward, and then we could always see what happens at the end of the day depending on the state. But I don't think that this is going to make or break us one way or another, but it really could make a big difference to the police department. Mr. Smansky.
How many times, what's our current vehicle? That van or?
2004 Ford F-350 ambulance.
So how many major incidents do we have a year? That it's used? In practice?
Well, we've got major incidents and we have crime scenes that obviously there's a separation and need for service. And I'm trying to make this short, sweet, because it's so late.
Take your time.
We respond
Here later.
It's actually early.
We use it for everything from the simple cases of burglary, because the evidence and the intensity of evidence collection has changed so much and so much more of a responsibility. Sexual assaults, things like rapes, forcible sexual interactions, the heroin opioid situations. To qualify the scene, 99% of what we do is DNA based. It's no longer fingerprints and fingerprint dusts and the whodunits and sketch artists. And there has to be a sterile and secure platform to do that from, and this van interior design will afford that to us. Years ago, if you had a sexual assault, you would seize the entire bed linens, the mattress, and send the whole thing to the lab. They would identify the qualifying areas that need further examination. Now we have to do that's on scene through alternate light source, DNA collections, and things like that, and submit partial swabs, sometimes maybe 3 to 4 inches, sometimes whole bed sheet. So that has to be done at the scene, no longer at the lab, because the state services are being cut way back. So this van will give us a legitimate platform to do it from. Also, a major incident, again, 1%, 99% action compared for 1% of the time. Major incident, like for years, a few years in a row, we were how many floods and landslides, and we were utilizing mobile communications to kind of separate services from the department to deal with the emergency scene. So this would be essentially a mobile dispatch center as well. So if we ever lost the mobile capacities or the dispatch capacities in the PD, we could operate out of this van for an interim
But didn't we
version.
just spend like a couple $1 million on our upgrade? I mean, it's out of like the 10,000 year floodplain where the dispatch is now. Do we have mutual aid with other towns where if our current van can't support it, can the state police come or other
The
towns?
state police sources are becoming more limited, and there's essentially a proposal to bill us for state police services. Years ago, you could call them, come out for say an overdose death. Well, now they redirect until it's at the direction of the state's attorney's office. And does the state's attorney want the van to come out or not? So we're working in a three-way thing, and sometimes we're not getting the services because it's just not available. Essentially, there are some security concerns in the design of the PD. We're powered by one overhead power source. Someone's come and take that pole down in front of the PD, our transformers go on, or secondary
You don't
power
have a generator?
sources. I'm sorry?
There's no generator up there?
There is, but again, we're isolated where we can't get in and out of the PD, so we would have the communication operations, but not the dispatch operations if they had to be mobily moved. It's a strategic plan for emergency preparedness. I tell you, we really came a long way with the designed radio system. It's phenomenal. This is just being prepared for the 1%.
So I guess my concern is, right, we heard from people here today, you know, you're saying the van's 2004. We were hearing from the people on Squire Hill today what they need. I hear from everyone in town what they need right now. The number one need, in my opinion, is roads. Our roads are in a deplorable condition. I understand where you are, but that vehicle, you know, is a 2004. It's usable. And in my opinion, not knowing what's happening with the state, not knowing where the $1.5 million in cuts are coming from the town, Board of Ed is about 500,000, town 900 and something. And also our perilous need for roads. I can't support this right now, I'm just being honest.
I understand.
But Mr. Smith, what's your suggestion, to transfer this into the roads budget, and we're at the end of the year, you know, so
No, we can let it go into the unassigned and then next year put it towards the road.
we don't fund operations from our unassigned funds. That's not good accounting principles. We don't do that. So
We use it,
we have,
just as we use it for tax relief, we can use it for capital projects as well. We've
We
done that
do.
historically.
we
We
have
take the surplus
over
and we use
$2
it.
million that was bonded for roads that we're getting underway with. Is
When's
$20,000.
the bond go out for the roads?
It was already issued. What do you mean?
So when are the roads gonna be designed?
We're working on it right now, Public Works.
So
It does
they're not
take a
gonna
little
get
while.
built this year.
This year, we anticipate starting work this year. So I understand,
I mean,
but
it's my
$20,000 is not making a drop in the bucket with regard to roads, with regard to next year's, any cuts that the state does.
Tell
We're
that to
not
the
going to be
people
able to
who are here
apply.
today.
Let me just say one thing. We don't get those numbers about, you know, what our surplus is or unassigned fund until February, when the audit finally comes in and we have all those final numbers. This $20,000 is not going to make or break the town when we have a 17% surplus right now. We have well over.
Well, Mayor, as someone who states when you first started about saving money on a cable bill and cell phone and this and how every dollar counts, I have to disagree based on those statements you made originally. It's my opinion, I'm only one vote, but right now, seeing the priorities in this town, I do not think the priority should be for this response vehicle. I think it should be for something else that, in my opinion, is a higher priority, such as the roads, and that's my opinion.
Ms. Lundgren.
I'd like to say that I would support this request. I feel like this is a vital service to the community. If you had a loved one that was involved in a rape or some sort of situation, you would want the best possible evidence provided and the best way of collecting it, so there's no question about it. I think this is a vital thing. I think it's very infrequent that the chief comes to us requesting anything, and this will provide a service that will guarantee that their investigations will go ahead with professionalism and the best technical data that they can collect. And it's critical when it's a crime scene and such as, you know, everything else.
Mr. Chamberlain.
Just a couple observations. We just bumped ahead a project for a library to the tune of about $7.5 million. We, just a few months ago, put $4 million into turf fields. We just spent $1 million or so to upgrade our park. And all of those are incredibly desirable things, incredibly useful things, things that enhance our community. But despite the fact that they add to our quality of life, there are basic needs that we have as a community. And safety and security are two of those basic needs. As someone who lives not in the center of town, but on the outskirts of town, I get to see what happens when the power goes out, when Route 7 gets shut down, when we have flooding, when we have major traffic accidents that will shut down major arteries for, hours at a time, extremes of weather that buffet our community. When I look at what the department has done in terms of raising its own funds, looking at its own resources first, and the utility of an emergency response vehicle, both from the criminal standpoint in terms of evidence collection and its use as a mobile command center. I can't think of anything more kind of fundamental to the job of policing under the most challenging circumstances. Now, as a lifelong criminal defense lawyer, I've seen a little criminal investigation work. And in the 35 years I've done this, criminal investigations have gotten harder, not easier. And to keep up with the challenges that they face, to keep our community safe, to provide the services, particularly for those of us who live in the more remote parts of town. I think this is incredibly important. I think the chief and his department have done all the right things, and I'm wholeheartedly in favor of this vehicle.
Mr. Esposito, did you have a question?
No, I did not.
Mr. Bass, before I just say one thing, Chief, where did the money come? There's money that's already kind of allocated to this already. Do you know where it came from? I remember we accepted a donation already.
We accepted multiple donations, anywhere from $500 to $750.
Right.
Majority choose to remain anonymous, so no one mentioned or identified. I'd like to add just a couple of very simple points. I certainly respect everybody's position here, and I feel in the 8 budgets I presented, they've been reasonable, fair, and you've been more than supportive in everything I've ever asked for. This is a tool for today's world. We have personnel in the police department that is one of 2 state-certified forensic scene analysts. He instructs the FBI in a crime scene investigation. He's high profile. He's capable of full execution. This is not a beyond the scope of our skill set. This is just a tool to meet the demands of today's world. I do appreciate Councilman Szymanski's position on the 2004 van. There's a lot of repairs been made, and we're almost out costing ourselves on the repair. It's been phenomenal, but it's made to save lives, not investigate death, and that's such. But I understand everybody's positions. I certainly appreciate it. And that's.
Sure. Oh, okay, Mr. Bass, Ms. Francis.
Couple things. First, the monies that we appropriated tonight came out of the landfill settlement fund. The turf fields, landfill settlement fund.
No,
they didn't.
Turf fields.
That's where we'll have a conversation for another day on that. But that's nor here nor there. My next question is, didn't we cut an ambulance?
Yep.
No.
Didn't we cut a request for that?
Funding.
No, we did not.
We did cut. We didn't.
Yes, we did.
We did not cut a request for an ambulance.
I heard
Well, we cut
the
the
ambulance
funding.
come here. We couldn't.
Not
we
the
couldn't
total,
fund.
it was.
There wasn't an ambulance. Let's be clear.
50,000.
So
No.
there's an ambulance that we put towards every year. It had about $50,000 in the funds. Instead of fully funding the $50,000 request installment payment, we reduced it to 25. with the understanding that the next year we would make up the difference and get us back up to snuff.
So, my own opinion, we have a vehicle that works. We could wait until July. We, if we're talking about saving lives, let's talk about ambulance. So,
But we're not talking about
I'm
buying a
gonna
new
be,
ambulance.
I'm gonna be voting no for this, and then maybe we can revisit it in July.
Well, in July, it's going to be a supplemental appropriation from the undesignated surplus.
And hopefully by then we'll have some more information on what expenses we're gonna reduce and what the state is gonna do. I think that behooves us in a very fiscally responsible way. Just my own opinion.
Ms. Francis?
Chief, what are you going to do with the retrofitted ambulance that you use now?
Well, we like to use it for a staging area from high-profile events. Most of these are anti-climatic or anti-weather. They're not really the best places to be. It gives us a chance to stage our people out of the environment. You've seen it at Village Fair Days, air conditioned on this case. And something like that, it's beneficial to just extend to recondition the dogs, recondition the men to get them back out high profile.
So although it needs, like you said, you're doing a lot of repairs, it's still usable?
Usable, I would rate it as semi-dependable. Part of it is we have storage opportunities for it down to Chiric, but it's not heated. Being a diesel, it's ready to be plugged in a secure environment. And we have to restock it every time we leave for a scene because the chemicals and equipment in there are affected by environment. That, obviously, so.
I'm also just curious, you didn't put anything in the budget for this? I mean, I knew you were getting donations and things, but you didn't have a line item for this. I mean, I seem to remember you talking about wanting this newer, more all-encompassing vehicle. There was no...
It was, well, there's so many things we're involved in, and I have to say that we didn't plan. We got a lot of, I'm going to say, promises for money for the donation. I wasn't didn't want to move this forward as a town expense originally, but we talked to a lot of great people, and there was a lot of offers, and one of the things that was said, we'll assure you 60,000 in 60 days, and that just came short. We came short on fundraising, and this was basically an awarded money to the police department. We thought with, obviously, moving it forward into this project. But like I said, I certainly respect everybody's position here. We all have jobs to do.
This is the last question is, so if we were to let the year end go by in another 15, whatever number of days it is, and we revisit this in July, I'll put it in the old wants and needs. I know you want it, and I know you feel you need it. But the difference of a month, is it really that big a deal? Will you wait a month?
No, ma'am.
Thanks.
Fair enough. So let's vote on it. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the opposed have it. All right, Chief, we'll try to revisit it, in a month and see where we stand then. All right.
Yeah, like I said, it was just
Motion to
concern
adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
about the finance process.
Second.
It's all good, don't worry about it. Yep.
I'm sorry. No, but you don't go away. I do have something that I wanted to mention, that it is Robin's last council meeting this evening.
Sure.
And she's going to be leaving us, literally leaving town. So I want to say thank you. You came in completely new when the mayor came in, and you've been a very excellent, I don't know what to call you, right hand, that's what I say. But I think Robin does a very good job of keeping us informed and when we're here at the council meeting, and you'll be very hard to replace.
Absolutely.
Does she write her own letter of appreciation?
That's why there's no
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know.
That'll be coming, absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you, Robin. Motion to adjourn, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.